Welcome. This is pretty cool. This is really cool. Thank you so much for coming out. Really appreciate it. We're gonna play a reel for you, my reel, and then we'll start.
Taking much out for the team. You're looking for shooters.
Not to brag or anything, but there's a lifesaver on this.
I mean, I get by. It helps because I write on the side.
Oh, so you get paid for that too?
No. I wish.
So why do you do it if you don't get paid?
Did you hear about Kyle?
What about him?
He booked a recurring Netflix original, huge money.
My. Well, fucking good for Kyle.
I thought you were leaving Dallas at home tonight.
It's a theater school party. No one's gonna notice if I'm in character.
Take a seat.
Can't do that, coach.
Take a fucking seat or go home.
Are you telling him I touched you? Is that how you think it went down?
You talk like you're buying me or something. Come live with me and I'll protect you. And then I'd be indebted to you and you're a personal servant.
Everyone at school fucking hates me because I'm out here trying to be an actual artist.
Everybody from school hates you because you're self-obsessed and you're addicted to this dumb Southern accent and you have no idea what's going on in the real world.
You have the nerve to tell me that my son is a liar? You go and talk to those boys. You believe them. You don't believe my son?
You know I like you, right? And I think you feel the same way about me.
But I've always been a sucker for dreaming.
I'm trying to be both your friends, but his life is going to be ruined because of this.
There's something to be said about the power of failure. It's all up to you.
Just relax and shoot. No pressure.
Turns out, it always was.
Thanks, guys. Well, so this is who I am. I'm a director and producer, and then I'm the co-founder and CEO of the Future Film Showcase, which is a film festival based in Toronto. So what you just saw was a reel of a mix of like directing and writing, producing that I've done. My work creatively, I am someone that explores toxic masculinity as well as the relationships that young adolescents have that sort of define the rest of their lives. So that's where I go creatively. But I also have a background in arts administration, running the Future Film Showcase. We're going into our 12th year next year. So this is a film festival that sort of fosters the future of emerging Canadian filmmakers. We spotlight short films and debut feature films, as well as different industry talks and workshops and stuff. So I really appreciate you guys being here. And I will say, you know, I'm whenever I speak and whenever I do these sort of workshops and panels, I always, as an audience member, I always feel very intimidated because I go like, look at how many people want to direct. Look at how many people want to produce. Look at how many people do what I want to do, which sort of leads me into the next thing where it's like, how did I get here? You could look at all this stuff and where my work is played and distributed, but it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. What really matters is why I'm here. And why I'm here is to sort of show me, well, here, I could leave this up if you want. Why I'm here is to sort of, is to remind you that you're here because you have chosen to invest in yourself, right? Whatever it is that I'm going to say today, you're going to take and do what you will with it. It's always it's always your responsibility to sort of invest in yourself. And the reason why I'm here is because a long time ago, I chose that it might be worth investing in myself, just for even a little bit. It might be worth me coming out here and possibly speaking to you guys and teaching you guys and showing you how I do what I do. So some of the information I share today, you may already know. Some of the information I share today, you might not know, or you might not even resonate with, and that's fine. But I think the difference here is like, we are living in such trying times, and every day it feels like it's getting scarier and scarier. But what brings us here today is because all of you, for whatever reason, chose you were going to wake up today, or maybe you bought a ticket last week or whatever. You guys decided that you were going to show up today and invest in yourself. And that's what matters, right? And with that comes knowledge, and knowledge is power. So use that, and whatever you gain today as an artist, it's your responsibility to sort of use that knowledge and try to make something out of it. Does that make sense? So, how did I get here? I went to film school. I went to York University for film production. In that time, we sort of very quickly realized that whatever it was we were doing here, just because we were in film school didn't necessarily mean we were going to have our film screened, right? Didn't necessarily mean that like we were going to make it. And I think we quickly realized that in our first year, and we decided to we decided to create sort of like a screening for students, a screening for film students. And so each of our films could play in a theater together. And so that's what the Future Film Showcase ended up starting as. It was literally just a screening, a 3-hour screening of student shorts that we all played in the theater. I worked at the theater, so big bonus. And, the GM was like, sure, let's do it. Turns out it was the last AMC in Canada, which is kind of hilarious. So he was like, sure, let's just give you a theater for 3 hours. So that's what ended up happening. We ended up building a partnership with Cineplex, which was really fun. And now we're at a smaller sort of independent theater in Toronto. But that's how we sort of grew FOFS. But as we were growing that, I sort of realized there needed to be more and more opportunities for filmmakers, not just to come and share works that they've created, but also learn and also take something out of the industry program that we were presenting. So that's sort of a brief history on FOFS. And here's like, when we hit our 10-year anniversary, this is like a short little video that was our team created.
Wow, and such a nice slate.
I don't know.
That's a big.
I'm trying to remember it.
Eric, like, how did we actually meet? Hi, I'm Julia Batista.
I'm Andrew Ahmed.
So my name is Mika Kernan.
My name is Adam Whitener.
My name is Antonio.
My name is Emma.
My name is Morgana.
My name is Momo Daoud.
My name is Ryan Bobkin.
It's Simon Rosinski.
Samantha Summers. Rebecca Ortiz.
Rebecca Love.
Peter Widrington.
I'm Shant Joshi. I'm co-founder of the festival.
Eric Bizzarri, and I'm the co-founder and the CEO.
Eric Bizzarri and I were in film school together at York. We were casting a short film that we were making. Eric, I think, remarked,
where are we going to premiere it? And I was working at a movie theater at the time, the AMC in Vaughan. So I went to my GM and I said, can we have a theater to show short films? And he just gave it to us.
I said, okay, but people would all come out to a movie theater just for 15 minutes to watch one short.
And I was like, well, no, let's have a bunch of films.
I think it was May 4th. We had the first festival, and people were asking us,
why don't you keep doing it?
I said, yeah, sure, why not?
If someone asked me if they should submit to FOFS, I'd immediately say yes.
There's no reason not to be part of this festival,
Why shouldn't you?
Go for it.
Just do it. Do it now.
The Future Film Showcase is the #1 film festival for short filmmakers across the whole country.
Future Film Showcase is very focused on taking care of the filmmaker.
It's about uplifting the Toronto film community.
You're treated like a part of the family.
It's a very open and welcoming bunch of people that wants you to be involved.
It provides opportunities for future filmmakers to collaborate with other filmmakers and meet new people that can take them to the next level.
The team is so supportive and so kind, and I think that really comes across to people. It's just been honestly amazing and very humbling to be able to be a part of creators' journeys like that.
Because I think something that FOFS understands is that while Canadian talent is a renewable resource, it does have to be nourished and fostered and encouraged to grow.
Having a community that understands that sees that celebrates your courage, that rewards your bravery, that connects you to people that feel the same way, that's really the strength of the festival.
It felt like I was no longer just making small little movies and putting them online.
We aren't making films to live in a vacuum. We're making them to be seen by people.
Just want to be able to share that art and sort of celebrate each other is really lovely.
So if that's what you're looking for, then I think F4FS is the place for you.
Have the confidence to keep going with it. It's such a daunting task.
But it's necessary because we have stories to tell and we have experiences to share. So make sure to highlight your beautiful, unique voice. Those are the kind of stories that more people need to see. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to all the folks who work behind the scenes to make this film festival possible.
Thank you to everybody who continues to make FOFS an amazing film festival.
And if I could say anything, really, you're the reason why we're here.
Happy birthday, FOFS.
Happy birthday, FOFS.
Happy birthday, FOFS.
Happy birthday, FOFS.
Happy birthday, Future of Film.
There you go. Cool. So the future of film to us is Canadian stories, equity and diversity, experience, accessibility, right? So what as an organization are we doing that can not only foster that experience for filmmakers coming in, but also, well, for filmmakers coming in that are screening with us, but also, again, filmmakers attending industry panels. This is also a reason why I'm speaking here, right? The Chilliwack Independent Film Festival does the exact same thing, right? Like these kind of festivals are really important to support and to foster and to nourish because this is what they're doing, right? They're fostering new and incoming talent. So some notable alumni that we've had, Alicia K. Harris, Emma Seligman had just had Bottoms that had just recently released. Meredith Hama Brown is a Vancouver native. These are some alumni of that festival. But we're going to talk about navigating festivals. Because the one thing that I feel like emerging filmmakers love to do is they love to make the movie and they understand, okay, well, this is my visual treatment, right? This is my directing style. We're going to talk about directing styles in a sec too. But they don't always know how to actually navigate the festival circuit. Like, I can't tell you how many conversations I've had with filmmakers that are like, I have this great film. We did it. We got the funding. We applied for it and everything. And it's ready to go. But I have no idea where to play it. I have no idea. Like, the first thing they think of, it's like, let's play at the top tier festivals, like the A-list festivals or something. Let's submit there. And then, oh, we don't get in. Well, I guess it's over, right? But that's not true. There's a whole process to sort of navigating festivals and how to actually build your strategy. So, okay, what are festivals? So obviously these are, organizations sponsored by national or local governments. They provide an opportunity for filmmakers, distributors, critics, and other interested persons to attend film showings and to discuss current artistic developments in film. Okay, great. But how do we get into them? Now, how do you submit to festivals? First thing, build a festival strategy. So who here, let's get a sense of who you guys are. So how many of you are directors? Okay, so how many of you have built festival strategies? Okay, cool. So festival strategies to me are, just as important as making it. Because again, you understand, all right, this is the festival that I would like to premiere at, but understanding that it's very competitive, where do I go after that? So usually the way that I break up festival strategies are, obviously you have the name of the festival, right? You have the location, the regular deadline, early bird, late deadline, whatever it is. I find it very interesting. You'll see some festivals that have 16 different deadlines, which I think is funny. Just look at the earliest you could submit sort of midway and then the late deadline. Don't submit after the late deadline. Try to submit as early as you can, right? Try to submit your film when it is ready, complete to share. A lot of the times people will submit works in progress. So being a festival programmer myself and discussing with our teams, a lot of that time will be, okay, they've submitted a work in progress. The sound isn't great, but the rest of it is there. That's fine. Versus another film that is complete, ready to go, out of the gate. And we're putting two and two side by side. Well, it's these guys aren't going to get us their final until 2 weeks from now, but these guys have their film already ready. Should we, you know what I mean? So that can sometimes affect decisions. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, okay, fine. Maybe you know a festival programmer personally. You're hey, this is a film that is about so-and-so. Maybe they're familiar with your work. They'll make an exception, right? But I would say when you're starting out right away, have the film as complete as can be when you're submitting it, right? So building a festival strategy is really important. Another thing is make a column for waiver codes, right? So this is going to come up in the next slide, but waiver codes are something that I feel like a lot of filmmakers, especially when they're starting out, are kind of afraid to ask for. But what you'd be surprised is if you position your film in a way that actually benefits the festival, give them a reason not to say no. Right? Like, hey, I realize you guys programmed this sci-fi about two sisters like 2 years ago. I really connected with that film, or, its plot really speaks to what I'm working on now. This is what I'm working on. This is my experience. Here's my, my film. Can you possibly give me a waiver code? And in that email, you should include something like an electronic press kit, right? Does everybody know what an electronic press kit is? Put up your hand if you do not know what that is. Okay, an electronic press kit is something that you include where you have like a few frame grabs of your film. In there, you also put like your contact information, the cast list, the crew list, your log line. You could also put something like, if you've screened at festivals already, you could attach their laurels in this kit. It's essentially a kit to teach somebody about your movie, right? This is the movie. It's complete. Here is what it is. Can you invest in it, I guess? And a festival investing in your film is a part of it is giving you that waiver code, right? So sometimes you might get a waiver code for the full thing, like here's a full free submission. Sometimes it could be 50%, 75%, whatever it is. It's not guaranteed, obviously, but I think if you put yourself in a position where you could at least ask, that should be part of your festival strategy. So reviewing your film's strengths, okay? I feel like what filmmakers don't do is they recognize what the film is, right? They recognize how they made it, the quality of the work. So sometimes what could happen is, let's say you've created something very niche, very genre-like, right? Review your film's strength in that case. Let's say it's a horror, right? You have a very, very strong horror component. Submit to horror-based festivals, right? Submit to, like in Toronto, we have Blood in the Snow. We have Toronto After Dark, right? Like submit to festivals that champion the exact film that you have in your pocket, right? Understand what your strength is, right? If your strength is it's a character portrait, let's say, and, identifying like, my film focuses on one main character and their journey through X, Y, and Z, right? Take a look at festivals and their programming that have championed films like that. It's going to take a little bit of work, but ultimately this research that you're doing, and what I'm coming back to at the beginning, is investing in yourself, right? This is the work you do to invest in yourself. Rather than blindly submitting and blindly putting your film out there and then getting upset it gets rejected, get rejected at least by the festivals you can get in. Like, do you see what I'm saying? Like, understand the festivals that that your film could fit into, So, okay, ask for waiver codes. So we were talking about that. The other thing is attend shorts programs. The fact that all of you are here means a great deal. The fact that all of you are here, and again, like I said, investing in yourself, right? You've come here, you've decided, I'm going to attend the Chilliwack Independent Film Festival. I'm going to attend this short film program. I'm going to attend this feature film program. Get to know programmers, right? So many times there are filmmakers, and listen, I'm one of them, right? Like, you don't get into a shorts program. It's like, well, I'm not going to attend the festival. These guys rejected me. Well, it's over now. That's it. It's done. Like, my film probably isn't good. It's not even worth showing up. Wrong. It's worth showing up because you never know who you're going to meet. You never know who you're going to meet. I remember I was, there's a, small story. I at the end of 2021, I was out with someone, and I had gotten into the Whistler Film Festival. And I thought that was a pretty, that's a good festival. But ultimately, it's going to cost to go there. It's going to cost to attend, to get accommodations and all that stuff, right? And, she looks at me and she goes, well, maybe this could be it. I think you should go. We're sitting on these rocks in Brampton eating sliced apples. And she was like, you should go to this festival. It's a good one. Like, you should probably go. And it's funny because in my head, I knew I should go and I knew I should make the opportunity, but I was nervous. I was like, I don't know if I should. I don't know if it's worth really investing in. And I thought to myself, and I was analyzing and I was manifesting. I was like, what if I went? And then what if, like, like the mental, the mental talk is like, let's try to be positive for a second. What if it did work out? What if it did work out? And I'm thinking, I'm like, well, what if I did go and then I, maybe I could somehow stay with this person and then I go and it's a good screening and I meet people. And then 6 minutes after she leaves to go to the bathroom, she goes, and 6 minutes after I look at my phone and I get an email for a job and they want to hire me as a production coordinator on some ice cream commercial. And this ice cream commercial is going to pay for me to go to Whistler. It's going to pay for me to go to Whistler. And listen, I'm not saying that, like everybody's going to have, like I was very, like that was a very like privileged moment where I was like, okay, like this is the opportunity. But I think what I'm trying to get at here is the second you sort of get out of your own head and you sort of manifest that opportunity and you see yourself there, right? It doesn't have to be on the rocks in Brampton eating apples. It could be like in your room, it could be here, it could whatever it is, but manifest yourself there, right? So then what happens? I go to this festival. The film you saw, the clip, I Want to Make a Movie or I Want to Die Trying, I co-directed that. We played at Whistler. And long story short, I met all these filmmakers there that I ended up working with for the next few years. Literally, one of the films just premiered a couple months ago. Like all of these people. One of the films actually is playing on Sunday in the awards-winning shorts blog. It's called The Second. And so I met that producer on that film because I had brunch with his girlfriend in Whistler who introduced me to him. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, it's all connected. And if I hadn't gone, then I wouldn't have met her. And then if I hadn't met her, then I wouldn't have met her partner and I would have made this film and I wouldn't be here. Do you know what I'm saying? Like it's all sort of, I've just put that together. It's all sort of connected. I put that together now. Okay, so when you're attending shorts programs, you're connecting with programmers, right? I think like ultimately a lot of the times as a shorts filmmaker, you may not want to make shorts for the entirety of your career, right? You want to make feature films. How do you make feature films, right? The thing is you could have the best team in the world, the best, visual strategy, the best cast and everything. But ultimately what I have found is if you've never been to film festivals, if you've never met programmers, right? Like you're in a completely different block, if that makes sense, right? Like going and attending and showing face and going, hey, my name is so-and-so. I have this film or I don't have a film. I'm just here to learn. I'm just here to watch, right? Because ultimately what happens is, I'll tell you something, a lot of the times the reason why films get rejected from festivals, and I'll tell you this as running one myself, it's not often because the film is bad. I'll tell you that. It's not often. Sometimes, okay, fine, maybe it doesn't work. But a lot of the times, it's because the short does not fit in the program we're programming. Do you guys ever attend like a program and you think like, why is this here? Why is this certain film here? It doesn't really make sense. This is mostly I don't know. This is like, we've seen like 75% of this program has been like adult films and you have like a kid's animated film in here. It doesn't really make sense, right? It's like whenever, and that's why I love film festivals like Chilliwack. I attended the shorts programs last year. They're fantastic. Like, sometimes the film just doesn't fit. There isn't a cohesion in the actual program, right? I remember there was one film, for example, had a strong EPK, strong cast. Oh my God, it was about these two guys that like it was Canadian director off the coast of like Iceland. And it was like, these two guys had like a 30-year friendship. They finally meet and reconnect and the whole thing. Oh my God, we're all crying. But I'm like, this doesn't work in the program. You go like film 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, this 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Like, granted, at FOFS, we only have a couple of shorts programs, so it's a lot harder. But it didn't fit in the program. So I'm like, we could program this. It's a good film, but it doesn't fit, right? And I think that's not a lot. That like filmmakers don't really understand that point of it too. Like the arguments and the discussions that happen in rooms with programmers are unparalleled, seriously. Like if you don't have good food, I'm always bringing Italian food in the rooms, right? Because the best discussions happen over food. But I'm telling you, like oftentimes if a film doesn't get into that program, most times it doesn't have to do with the quality of the film as much as it does its position in the program. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. What types of film festivals are there? So obviously you got the major festivals, right? Off the bat, exposure, credibility. Sure. Okay. Challenges. extremely competitive and expensive. A lot of these festivals are not going to pay for you to go there. They're not going to, sometimes they don't even pay you screening fees, right? So it's like you spend all this time making a film and then you have to pay to go to the festival. Like it's a whole thing, right? And so just keep that in mind with the major festivals. But obviously they're best for films with high production value, ambitious storytelling, unique perspectives. Okay, that's a little bit, the ambitious storytelling, sure. Maybe that could be skewed either way, right? A friend of mine, I don't know, Mazir Khatam, where I'm gonna show a clip of him pretty soon, Iranian filmmaker, made a film called Bump, 3 minutes long, about two guys literally just arguing outside of a convenience store. Shot wide, just their conversation, zooms in a little bit, gets into Sundance. What? Makes the film for $200. $200. So sometimes ambitious storytelling, high production value can go fuck itself. Sometimes that's not always the case. But the reason why I put it in here is because there's always a consistency with films that get into festivals like this. And those are ones that are intentional with the way it's directed, with the way that it's made. It's not one film that's trying to say another thing, or whatever it is, right? There is always a consistency with the way that film is made. Does that make sense? So you got the niche and regional festivals, right? Okay, you cater to specific audiences or regions. You have examples there. So Chilliwack, Fantasia, Outfest. They're more targeted opportunities, more accessible. There's opportunities for feedback and growth. I've heard from a lot of people that have gone into major festivals that they just feel like one small seed in a huge forest. You know what I mean? Like niche and regional festivals can sometimes include more targeted opportunities for you to actually grow. So like they might have like a pitch session, for example, or they might have these little like, intimate like workshops and panels and stuff like that, Yeah. How do you choose the right festival? Genre focus, audience type, location, competition level. So choosing the right festival is always, like I was saying before, it's always a challenge, right? Because you're trying to assess the strengths that your film has, but you also have to be honest about its weaknesses. You know what I mean? So if it's something that, again, like you sort of just made on the fly, you're like, well, I don't know if I really want to push this film as hard as I have others. Let me just stick to smaller niche and regional festivals. That's great, right? But you're addressing what kind of genre and what kind of, like what's the conflict in your film? What are you trying to say with your film? What's the thesis of your film? And where is that going to resonate, right? Then you look at audience type, right? What kinds of audiences do I want my film to show it, right? In front of. I made a film, you saw a clip of it there, Cold Hands, and it deals with a boy who's sexually assaulted, and he's sort of coming to terms with that, and it's a personal story. And so the journey for a film like that, I found, was not necessarily in film festivals, right? So what we ended up doing was we ended up screening at various like sexual violence seminars across the country. I did one at McGill University. I did one in Regina. Like it's like you have all these festivals that with audiences that could nurture that movie. Do you know what I mean? And I think I got really in my head about the fact that it wasn't getting into festivals until I realized what type of audience the film was for. Do you see what I'm saying? Location. Listen, festivals cost money, airfare, accommodations, whatever it is, right? You don't have to go to every one of them, right? So keep that in mind as well, right? So obviously location is going to be a factor. Competition level as well. I would say I don't know. I remember when I was young and I applied to this university, and the first thing that the person said when we went to this information session was, she was like, this is a really competitive program and 95% of you are not going to get in. And at least 30 people just left because they're like, I'm not going to invest in this. I'm not going to get in. I believe what she's saying. But the reason why she said that, and I'm learning this even now, is they're trying to weed out the people who are not willing to fight for it. Do you see what I'm saying? So the competition of these festivals, fuck it, who cares? Sorry, I swear, but who cares? No, but seriously, who cares? It's the chances of you getting in may be slim, but if you don't try, you'll never know. Do you understand? If you don't try, you'll never know what it could be like to apply. And even just because we deal with this, who applies for grants? Who's applied for grants before? Okay, who's applied for films? I imagine. Mostly films? Okay. We'll have time for Q&A, by the way, afterwards. I only started applying for grants for films, I'll be honest with you, early last year. I never applied for grants before. I always relied on, my own resources to do it. And, I always relied on that stuff. And what I realized is like in actually writing the grant, even though the competition is so high, you learn so much about yourself in your film and writing that. You're literally like forced to extrapolate these ideas in your brain you didn't even know existed. And you just keep going, you keep writing and rewriting and writing and rewriting. So I'm kind of glad that I've been rejected. Who else has been glad they've been rejected? I don't know. Like it's cool, right? Because it teaches you a lot about what your project is and what you're doing. And I think, again, I come back to this competition level where it's like, if you could, for a second, just forget about how many other people are applying, forget about however many people want this, right? Everybody in this room wants to be a director. Let's be honest, right? I don't know. Or maybe a producer or in the creative field. Everybody wants to work in the creative field from what I imagine. That's why you're here, right? Not every, the fact of the matter is every one of you are going to make it if you truly believe you are going to make it. If you truly believe that you deserve the work that you're seeking. Do you understand? It's kind of the same thing with love, right? If you understand that you are deserving of love and healthy friendships and healthy relationships and everything, you'll get that. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's just the same thing with festivals. When you're a filmmaker and you're navigating where to play your film, it's a very vulnerable thing. To make a film is incredibly vulnerable, right? Oftentimes you're writing about personal stories that maybe you've never shared with anybody before, right? But just give yourself that grace to believing that you can actually achieve what you're trying to achieve. Okay, pitching. So, this might come familiar, but when you're generating ideas, you're drawing inspiration from your own life, right? You're looking to other media, you're brainstorming with a group, or you're keeping a notebook. Out of all of this, what I normally do is I draw inspiration from my own life, but I also keep a physical notebook, but I also just write notes in my phone. That's what I was pulling out. And I literally have pages and pages. And sometimes I'm on like the subway, for example, and I literally just like I'll pull out something random now. I literally just hear people saying things. And sometimes I just take up my phone quickly and I pull it up. Like this one thing was like I heard somebody say, it feels like it's in a growing place, not a codependent place. I fall in love with every moment and every pretty thing. That sounds paralyzing, isn't it? Right? I heard someone say that. And it's like, I'm so fixated on what these things are and what they've said to me. And that's what I sort of draw inspiration. So I guess what I'm saying is when you're generating your ideas, try to understand your thing, whatever your thing might be, right? Like understand whether it's by watching other works, by listening and observing. I'm a very observant person. I love people watching. I'll go in a coffee shop and as weird as that sounds, I'll just like listen to what people are saying, right? It's very freeing. But structuring a story, act 1, act 2, act 3, I'm sure you guys are familiar with this, the setup, the confrontation, the resolution. But the reason why I bring this up is also to say, forget the act structure sometimes, right? This may not work for everybody, right? Your act 3 may come in act 1. We see filmmakers experimenting and doing this all the time now, right? Sometimes a 3-act structure doesn't actually work for the film that you're making. So understand out of all of this, what actually works for your project, right? Your project could be one scene in one location with one character, right? Chances are that's not going to have a distinct act 1, act 2, act 3. But if you keep this in the back of your head and understand how you're mobilizing it, that works out, at least for me. Bringing your concept and story to life. So obviously write a script, create a storyboard. Who creates storyboards here? Do you guys write storyboards? I don't do storyboards. Do you do storyboards? I think sometimes storyboards may not work for everybody. That's what I'm saying, right? Sometimes even scripts, sometimes you may stick with outlines, which is great. So what should a pitch include? So you got story synopsis, character relationships, key character relationships, tone and style, market analysis. Okay, so story synopsis, obviously, what's your story about? What are the main points? What are the main elements, right? Don't give us the whole back to front, right? Just choose the individual, the most important elements of this, right? Character relationships. If your film has an ensemble cast of 6 people, don't tell us about all 6 characters. Tell us about 2, tell us about 3. Tell us about the relationships that are going to just pop right away. Give the reader a reason to want to read more. Don't answer all their questions. Make them have questions, but more so about where the story goes after the pitch, right? Tone and style, it's pretty self-explanatory. Market analysis, kind of like what we've been saying, right? Is like, who is this film for? What audience is this film for, right? So if I'm making a film about like what I mentioned about Cold Hands and understanding, okay, this may not be a film that fits in festivals. This is a film that fits in educational settings, right? In settings that, sexual violence seminars that we hosted and we had and was, successful in that, right? Understanding who your audience is really important. Okay, so what type of a director are you? We got actors director, technical director, collaborative director, autocratic director, improvisational director. Who here has heard of these things? It's genius. Who's here have heard of these things? Okay, so the types of directors, I only learned about this maybe 6 or 7 years ago. An actor's director is someone who is completely fixated on molding performance, right? These are the people that usually have the closest relationships to their actors. These are people that, I'm very much an actor's director where, they're playing fictionalized versions of myself, right? So that's going to cause me to have a very personal relationship with them. Technical director, right? You are someone that thinks visually. You are someone that knows the cameras and the lenses and the amount of takes you need and the amount of setups you need. Like, this is someone who thinks technically, right? Collaborative. Someone that walks in and goes, here's the script, but I'm open to changing it. Here's the script, but I'm open to improv, right? Allows the actors to become part of the process, to become participants in the process, right? Autocratic director, someone that has come at the very start and gone, this is the vision, this is how we're gonna execute it, this is what comes next, right? Someone from the get-go, beginning to end, right? Famous examples, Alfred Hitchcock, Stanley Kubrick, like those guys are we're very, very autocratic. Improvisational director, similar to collaborative, where sometimes a script for an entire scene just gets thrown out the window, right? We've seen tons of examples in these, even in films recently, where actors will just sort of come in and improvise, right? But yeah, so think about that. Think about what kind of a director you are, because I think that's also important when you're approaching your film and your actors to understand, like, if your key crew and your actors were to understand what kind of a director you are, that could help just inform the process. Yeah? Cool. Here is a clip from, it's called the Canadian Cinema Roundtable. This is a podcast we just created with Future Film Showcase, and they're talking about directing.
Well, yeah, we did a lot of
But regarding
rehearsals.
preparation, I don't think there was any particularly emotional preparation for that scene. But there is another scene where Maz's character kind of shouts at his father and cries afterwards. I would say that one, because even though it's not physical, but it's more emotional. That really you went out, Maren, my co-director, really talked to him, and they kind of went into deep.
We really took
dark
the time to do that, right?
in a way.
Because I think on set you really don't have the time to do that, right? We literally spent the day. Just on that scene. We were just
You have to, yeah.
And the thing is, I'm not an actor, so I can't do pickups. I can't pick up a scene. Yeah. And so on Bubba as well, everybody was non-actors. The dad, it was his first time on screen. Wow. The landlord's a real landlord. He's never acted. He's not an actor. Cena's from my high school, and I've never, done anything. And so we would do incredibly long takes, which was really helpful that you guys let us do 10-minute long takes where we wouldn't break. Sometimes because I was editing it too, sometimes not all of it's usable, but because it helps you really get into that build up, especially with Baba. There's a scene where I cry, there's a scene where the dad cries, and doing those incredibly long takes was really helpful for us.
But I also find in
it.
the edit, sorry to interrupt, you can't really build emotion that high if you're talking about about to break and you're doing a pickup or you're starting the scene in the middle. You can see it's really not in the cutting room, it doesn't cut well together because emotions don't match.
Doesn't match, exactly. Then I think the biggest to also go to the fight scene. We had a slap that was real at the end, and did that 7 times. It was a lot. It was really Amir took a fucking beating.
It looked good though.
Well, it was real. I hope it looked good.
It looked really good.
It was, and he took such. Everyone took a beating on that film. I think we were very there was the overlapping dialogue was excruciating. I had to go in and out of different languages, which was just really hard to kind of do. And we were also improvising at the same time. There was a lot of improv, and it was just kind of everybody brought their A game.
That's Mazir made his film, the $200 movie that ended up getting at Sundance. That podcast, Canadian Cinema Roundtable, is streaming on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You guys could take a look. So top 10 ideas for directing actors, according to Judith Weston. Process-oriented. It's all about the relationship. Pick your battles. Listen more than you talk. I'm still working on this. Be flexible. Okay? And understand the actor's point of view. Allow them to come in and, again, to imagine like an actor coming in and giving their all, giving their performance, that's always a very vulnerable thing for them to do, right? Understanding their point of view and allowing them to become a participant in the making of it, for me, is important. Questions over answers. Everything is personal. Fall in love with your characters and fall in love with your actors. Not actually fall in love with them, but fall in love with the preparation and always understand, like, if there's anything that I've ever taken away from what I've done and who I've worked with, is work with those you love that love you back. Because when that happens, there's a magic in when that happens, right? And I've been so fortunate to have whatever it is, these projects or the film festival, whatever it is, right? What gets me up and gets me excited about what I'm doing is because I'm working with people I love that love me back. And when you have that, take it. Do you understand? Like that's such an important, in an industry that can be so volatile and so competitive. If you can find people like that and have relationships like that, it's incredible. And here are actors talking about working with directors.
So I haven't tried this yet, but I want to try it the next time that I film or self-tape. But they said, right before you tape, say something to yourself that's like 100% true. Or say like out loud. I'll be like, oh, I'm really sweaty right now. And it just propels you into the present moment.
Yeah.
And then through that, it's like the truth. Yeah.
I think MAP has helped me a lot with like getting through auditions or starting out with auditions, because like the philosophy is very just start with where you're at and don't try to get to an emotion. Just start exactly how you're feeling. And then through the script, you'll probably get there anyway. And that's kind of how I've been trying to approach it more so, because I have a big problem, as I'm sure like you guys probably do as well, maybe not, with pre-planning every emotion I wanted to have and everything I wanted to do. And obviously it's very like acting school, I didn't go to acting school, but like acting class as well, where you're like, yeah, like what are the emotional beats here? And what are
it's
always the objectives and then like
not the beats.
What are you fighting for?
There's a book called Actions. That's like a beat book. I'm scarred by it. I burned it.
We have to beat the beats, like no beating.
It's like, oh my gosh, like it's so exhausting, because then you're so in your head the whole time wondering, how should I say this? Like, if I was angry, then I would say it like this. Or like...
No, that's real. I know. It's funny because you're like,
messes you up.
Yeah.
But it's funny because we're in our heads more, we're like, how have I ever been angry in my life? Like, how do I do this? And it's like, well, of course I have been.
Human?
And it's like, maybe I need to be a little bit more angry, but like 2% less. It's just the perfect sweet spot of anger right now.
The 2% is real. The 2%. God. Oh my God.
There you go. When you're giving an actor notes. So I've sort of broken it down like into these three things. So when you're giving an actor notes, give the actor a first person active, so not a passive verb, right? So you are getting to this place, right? A person or thing acted upon. You are getting to this place and sitting on the chair. An intended effect that will either be fulfilled or not. You are getting to this place to sit on the chair to talk to your father, you know? Like, break it down into those three things, right? I feel like a lot of actors I've spoken to, a lot of notes from directors they say are never intentional. They're kind of just like, well, like what they were saying, it's like, just be angry, right? But that's not intentional, right? So as a director, when you're working with actors, they love, and I don't know if there's any actors in the room, they love to receive intentional feedback and intentional notes, right? So that's why we've broken it down to those three things. When you're directing, write out physical notes in your script. Don't rely on your memory. Be precise. Help them understand the subtext under each line, right? If you want them if you imagine the line like there's a little bit of a stutter, a little bit of a whisper, let's say, but also allow them to make the line their own. You understand? Changing the rhythm and the dialogue and your wording matters. Everything you say to an actor matters, right? You are there for them. You have to be their support system. Do you understand? Like you're both there together. Now we've got a trailer to a new film that I directed that'll be released soon. It played at Chilliwack last year, and then we'll do like a really brief Q&A. Yeah.
We got our first exhibition game on Friday. I want you on the roster for that game. We'll see if you don't blow it.
I don't think basketball was ever really my thing. You know, I just sort of played because Fraser wanted to. I mean, like, literally the only thing he ever wanted to do.
Just relax and shoot. No pressure.
Questions? Thanks. Thanks, guys. Cool. Let's go for some questions. Any questions? Questions.
Oh, can you please use your mic just so everyone can hear you? Thank you.
Yeah.
When you talked about ambitious storytelling,
yeah,
that's like a big thing, right? So I was wondering if you could elaborate on that a little bit, because there's so many things that are ambitious in storytelling, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so ambitious storytelling could resolve in anything from like, if you're shooting, if your film has a lot of coverage, right, and you're shooting a lot of wide shots, right, the wider you go in a shot, the more production design around the scene. Do you know what I mean? So an example of ambitious storytelling is like if you have a wide shot set in a church or set in a kitchen. Let's use a kitchen. Set in a kitchen, right? Rather than just the character looking pensive next to the window, you see the kitchen island with the table they're sitting at looking out the window. So now you got the walls, the kitchen island, and the table to dress, right? It's an example of ambitious storytelling. You know, and ambitious storytelling might even be the amount of cast that you have sometimes, right? Like the larger the ensemble, the more stakes, maybe even the more conflict. Do you know what I mean? So kind of like what I would suggest is like as you progress in your directing like sort of process, start small, always start small. Start small and grow and grow and grow, right? If you're directing your first short, don't direct a short with 16 different actors. Do you know what I mean? Like start small, make the conflict smaller, make the relationships tighter, and then expand.
Who are we picking
Questions?
next over here?
Yeah. Thank you.
No problem.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Going back to what you're talking about with writing down ideas and brainstorming and all that, have you found anything consistent across the films that you've made when you knew that the idea was worth continuing and worth developing? Because a lot of the time when you come with an idea, at least for me, when I come with an idea, it's very loose and it's a scene or it's a moment or it's like one, whatever. When do you know, have you seen any consistency across your ideas where you go, when you know when to commit to an idea?
I think it's because I write about what bothers me, you know? Like I write about like, so I keep mentioning Cold Hands, but like it's probably the most personal thing I've ever made. And I had this experience in high school where I was assaulted. And so like when in writing, like I turned to writing as therapy. Do you know what I mean? So I didn't make that film until probably like 4 or 5 years after the incident actually happened, because I just sort of let it ruminate. And, you know, you let a pot boil and boil and boil and boil, and eventually it just explodes, you know? And so like, well, pot's not gonna explode, but like, it's just the idea will explode, you know? So I think just like, if it's a moment or a scene that you're really like interested in, You just sort of let that moment consume you a little bit and think about it and let it ruminate. And then it's like, am I bothered by this? Or is this just an idea? Do you know what I mean? Like, you know what they say where like, just because it happened to you doesn't mean it's necessarily going to translate well on screen. Do you know what I mean? So I could have a nice moment or a nice idea that I'm interested in, but like, does this have a beginning, middle, and end, or is that just a moment? Do you know what I mean? So I think I ruminate on that. Like I think about what bothers me and the way that young men sometimes speak to each other, the way that, you know, we're in our mid to late 20s and we feel like our lives, people's lives, our friends' lives are changing around us, you know? Like that's something that I think about quite often and kind of keeps me up sometimes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Oh, Andy.
Yeah.
Could you elaborate on the market analyst part of the pitches that you were talking about?
Yeah.
Like, because like the industry is changing so much, like how much does, like how do you kind of approach that question? And then could you also talk about like how important is like, how do you like approach the why you when you're pitching? Like, why are you the person to tell the story? Because that's usually like something that people are looking for.
So I'll start with the second part of your question. The reason why is because I got a piece of advice when I was younger, and I said, well, we've seen coming of age stories before. Do you know what I mean? We've seen coming of age. We've seen that before. But the difference is nobody has seen this particular story from you. Nobody can make the film that you're making, right? You could have a film, you can have an idea, and you could have 30 people gunning, you know, if we had, you know, if this workshop was a week long and by the end of it, we all made a film about the same story, it's going to be treated very differently. So I think the why you aspect of it has to be what connects you specifically to the material, right? And also including sometimes your comparables, which is what kind of goes into market analysis, right? My film is this meets this with a little bit of this. You know what I'm saying? So it's like understanding, and of course the market is changing all the time, right? That's obvious. But what hasn't changed is what's come before. So if you were to say, hey, I'm making this film here, these are the films that I've made before that have sort of informed my style in this film, or I really love the way that this particular director treated this one scene. You know, I really love the camera work sort of in here, right? So understanding what makes market analysis is more so what makes your film unique in the sea of films that already exist right now. And the way that you're going to analyze that is understanding your personal connection to the material, but also in the back of your head, reminding them that nobody can make the film like you, right? There's always going to be coming of age stories. There's always going to be sci-fi movies. That's never going away. But I'd like to think the way that the reason why we're attracted to certain films is because they've come at it from a very different place we've never seen before. Do you know what I mean? There's a film that came out called Strange Darling. I don't know if you guys have heard of it, earlier this year. It's about two people that go on a date. That's all I'm going to tell you. The way that unfolds is wild. Absolutely wild. So, yeah. Cool.
Question over here.
Yep.
Yeah, right here.
Oh, sorry. Okay. I was like, yeah.
You mentioned having a treatment or obviously synopsis as part of your pitch, clearly. But at what point do you need to have a script that's shareable? I'm always thinking like, if lightning strikes and you get in that right conversation, they're going to ask for a script. And if you don't have it, I feel like the opportunity kind of slips away. So what's your take on that? Like, I feel like a finished script is something everyone should have if you're pitching, but clearly that's not always the case. Yeah. So where do you kind of draw that line and how do you see that like as a must-have?
Yeah, I think like as a filmmaker, I don't feel like you're ever going to be 100% satisfied with what you have, right? You're always gonna like, when is a script shareable? It's like, I feel like I'm kind of sitting on that now with this feature that I've been writing and the feature version of Cold Hands. And it's like, you're sitting on it and it's like, well, when is this ready to share? Oh, but if I just add this little thing, then it'll be ready to share. But then you add that thing and then there's always a next thing and the next thing. So I think what needs to be solid is first and foremost, obviously, is your treatment, right? Understanding what the vision is, make it very intentional and concise. But then when your script is ready to share, it's kind of a gut feeling. Like you're reading through it and you're like, I've said everything I want to say. And I think like some filmmakers get in get into the headspace where it's like, oh, this is ready to share because I don't need feedback. Like, this is ready to share because I don't need feedback on anything. When in reality, I think it's actually about, this is ready to share because I do need feedback. I actually do need feedback on like X, Y, and Z. This really doesn't work. I mean, obviously, like, polish it so that way it's in a proper format and it's still readable. But I would say it's kind of that gut feeling, you know? Does that answer your question? Yeah? Yeah, no problem. One more? Cool.
Can we
Yeah.
Oh, sorry?
Can I actually add on that? No, never mind.
Let's do someone that hasn't asked anything.
We are at time.
We're at time? Okay. Yeah. Guys, we're at time. Thank you so much. The last thing I will say that I said in the beginning, okay? All of you have decided to come in here because you're investing in yourself, right? At times, well, right now, the world can feel like a scary place. It feels like every day it's just getting scarier and scarier. But I think the fact that you all come here, you know, to this festival for one reason or another, and you're choosing to invest in yourself, with that comes knowledge. Knowledge is power. And use that knowledge in your art and what you're creating right now. And I really appreciate you coming out. So thank you. Thank you.